Good afternoon, all of you. Welcome to Placement Cell Workshop Series from 15th to 19th March. Respected Principal Sir, D.V. Pawar Sir, our Vice Principal Sontakke Sir, we Placement Cell Committee members arrange 5-day workshop on resume writing, skill development, government courses, personal branding using Link India, investment banking, mock share trading workshop on live market, how to set career objective and work towards the better placement. I'm sure that it will help our students for their placement in various fields. I request our principal sir to speak a few words. Over to Pawar sir.
Okay. नमस्कार and good evening to one and all. आज या प्लेसमेंट सेल यांनी आयोजित केलेल्या ऑनलाईन वेबिनारच्या प्रमुख वक्त्या रिसोर्स पर्सन्स डॉक्टर प्रियांका जिनागौडा, सोनिया गावडे, त्याचप्रमाणे महाविद्यालयाचे सर्व ऑफिस बेरर्स, हेड ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट्स, शिक्षक, शिक्षकेतर कर्मचारी, विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो आणि विविध महाविद्यालयातून या ऑनलाईन वेबिनारसाठी ज्या विद्यार्थ्यांनी रजिस्ट्रेशन केलेलं आहे असे विद्यार्थी, आपणा सर्वांचं आज या 6 दिवसीय कार्यशाळेसाठी मी प्राचार्य डॉक्टर डी.व्ही. पवार या नात्यानं खरं सर्वांचं स्वागत करतो. विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, कीर्ती महाविद्यालयामध्ये अनेक सेल आहेत, अनेक समित्या आहेत आणि या समित्यामार्फत, या सेलमार्फत या करोनाच्या पार्श्वभूमीवर विद्यार्थ्यांशी कनेक्ट राहावं, कारण प्रत्यक्ष आपण महाविद्यालयामध्ये येत नाही, परंतु या ऑनलाईन वेबिनारच्या माध्यमातून आपल्याशी कनेक्ट राहावं म्हणून नेहमीच कीर्ती महाविद्यालय हे प्रयत्न करत आहे. मागील आठवड्यात काउन्सिलिंग सेलच्या वतीनं आपण करिअर काउन्सिलिंग किंवा करिअर कोणतं निवडावं यासाठी सुद्धा एक 6 दिवसाची कार्यशाळा घेतली. फेब्रुवारीमध्ये 20 ते 26 स्वातंत्र्यवीर सावरकर पुण्यतिथी निमित्तानं आपण एक सिरीज ऑफ लेक्चर्स ऑर्गनाईज केले होते आणि आता परत हा 6 दिवसाचा असे विविध प्रकारचे आपण कार्यशाळा विद्यार्थ्यांशी कनेक्ट राहण्यासाठी करत आहोत. मला सांगायला आनंद वाटेल की या वर्कशॉपमध्ये फक्त कीर्ती महाविद्यालयाचेच विद्यार्थी नाही तर बाहेरच्या महाविद्यालयाचे विद्यार्थी आहेत आणि म्हणून कीर्ती कॉलेजबद्दल थोडक्यात एक 2 ते 3 मिनिटांमध्ये मी माहिती देऊ इच्छितो. मित्रांनो, कीर्ती महाविद्यालय तसंच जुनं महाविद्यालय की ज्या महाविद्यालयाची स्थापना 1954 साली झाली. and we belongs to the Deccan Education Society. Our head office is at Pune. आणि संस्थेचा जर विस्तार म्हटलं तर विस्तार फक्त पुण्यापुरताच आहे अशातला भाग नाहीये, तर सातारा, सांगली, वाई, तिरुपती, मुंबई अशा विविध ठिकाणी डेक्कन एज्युकेशन सोसायटीने आपला विस्तार केलेला आहे. एकूणच महाविद्यालयाची स्थापना मगाशी म्हटल्याप्रमाणे की 1954 साली झाली. 65 वर्षाच्या इतिहासामध्ये अनेक क्षेत्रामध्ये आपले विद्यार्थी कार्यरत आहेत. म्हणजे एकही क्षेत्र असं नाही की ज्या क्षेत्रामध्ये कीर्ती महाविद्यालयाचा विद्यार्थी नाही. आणि म्हणून खरोखरच कीर्ती महाविद्यालयाला एक परंपरा आहे आणि अशा जुन्या महाविद्यालयांनी काही सामाजिक कार्य करावं, विद्यार्थ्यांसाठी विविध उपक्रम करावेत, म्हणून हा आजचा एक उपक्रम म्हटलं तर वावगं ठरणार नाहीये. कीर्ती महाविद्यालयाने 3 नॅक फेस केल्या. खरं 3 वेळा आपण नॅकचं ॲग्रिगेशन करून घेतलं तर 3ही वेळा आपल्याला A ग्रेड प्राप्त झालेली आहे. त्याचप्रमाणे मुंबई विद्यापीठाचा बेस्ट कॉलेजचा बहुमान सुद्धा मिळालेला आहे. कीर्ती महाविद्यालय तसं म्हटलं तर पारंपरिक महाविद्यालय की ज्या ठिकाणी आर्ट्स, कॉमर्स, सायन्स असं शिकवलं जातं, पण त्याचबरोबर आपल्या महाविद्यालयामध्ये मित्रांनो जवळजवळ एक 6 सेल्फ फायनान्स कोर्सेस आहेत. त्यामध्ये IT, कॉम्प्युटर सायन्स, BMM, BAP, BMS, बायोटेक असे विविध कोर्स शिकवले जातात. त्याचप्रमाणे PG कोर्सेस सुद्धा आहेत, रिसर्च सेंटर सुद्धा आहे. आपण कॅम्पसमध्ये बघितलं तर कॅम्पसमध्ये ज्या ठिकाणी एक महाविद्यालय होतं त्या ठिकाणी आता 3 महाविद्यालय उभी राहिलेली आहेत, 3 संस्था उभ्या राहिलेल्या आहेत. So now in this educational institution, now there are three institutions actually. Basically, Kirti College, the Naveen Chandra Mehta Institute of Technology and Development, where we are running the MCA and MMS courses, and third is the JS Kothari Business School, where we have started the PGDM courses. Academic बरोबरच आपल्या महाविद्यालयामध्ये ज्याला आपण एक्स्ट्रा करिक्युलर ऍक्टिव्हिटीज म्हणू अशा ह्या नेहमीच चांगल्या प्रकारे राबवल्या जातात. त्याचप्रमाणे नवीन सांगण्यासारखी गोष्ट या अकॅडमिक इयरपासून आपण 3 विषयांमध्ये पीजी कोर्सेस सुरू केलेले आहेत. त्यामध्ये पॉलिटिकल सायन्स, इकॉनॉमिक्स आणि इंग्लिश या तिन्हीचे पीजी कोर्सेस सुरू केलेले आहेत. मगाशी म्हटल्याप्रमाणे की एक्स्ट्रा करिक्युलरमध्ये एनसीसी असेल, एनएसएस असेल, स्पोर्ट्स असेल, कल्चरल असेल, ह्या सगळ्या क्षेत्रामध्ये कीर्ती महाविद्यालय हे अग्रेसर राहतं. आजचं वर्कशॉप जे आहे मित्रांनो, बेसिकली प्लेसमेंट. आणि प्लेसमेंट ज्यावेळी असं आपण म्हणतो की ज्यावेळी मी विद्यार्थी आहे आणि विद्यार्थी दशेतच मला जर एखादा जॉब मिळाला, एखादी जर चांगली प्लेस मिळाली, तर त्याच्यासारखा खरं आनंद असू शकत नाही. आणि म्हणून आमच्या प्लेसमेंट सेलच्या वतीनं मगाशी मॅडमनी उल्लेख केल्याप्रमाणे की विविध विषयांवरती वर्कशॉप ऑर्गनाईज केलेले आहेत. माझी विनंती एवढीच राहील की आपण हे सगळे 6 दिवस राखून ठेवा. याचा झाला तर नक्कीच फायदा होईल. आजचं सुरुवातीला जे वर्कशॉप होणार आहे की ज्यावेळी तुम्ही कुठेही जॉबसाठी अप्लाय करणार आहात, त्यावेळी हाऊ टू राईट रिझ्यूम, माझा हा बायोडेटा कसा असावा. कारण ज्यावेळी तुम्ही व्हायवासाठी जाता, इंटरव्ह्यूसाठी जाता, तुम्हाला जे प्रश्न मित्रांनो विचारले जातात त्या बायोडेटावरूनच विचारले जातात. तुम्ही काय मांडलेलं आहे, तुम्ही काय लिहिलेलं आहे, त्यातूनच उपप्रश्न निर्माण होतात. आणि तिथे जर मी सक्षमपणे उत्तरं देऊ शकलो तर मला वाटतं प्लेसमेंट तशी अवघड नाहीये. त्यानंतर दुसरं वर्कशॉप किंवा उद्या स्किल डेव्हलपमेंट अँड गव्हर्नमेंट कोर्सेस. आपल्याला कल्पना आहे की कला असणं हे आवश्यक आहे. म्हणजे स्किल डेव्हलपमेंट आणि किंवा स्किल डेव्हलपमेंटसाठी शासनाचे कोणकोणते कोर्सेस आहेत याची खरं आपल्याला बरीचशी माहिती नसते. पण अलीकडच्या काळामध्ये ग्रॅज्युएट्स मला पाहिजे तेवढे मिळतील, परंतु स्किल लेबर की ज्याच्याकडे काही स्किल आहे, कला आहे, असं मॅनपॉवर मित्रांनो उपलब्ध होत नाही. आणि म्हणून त्याची ह्या वर्कशॉपच्या माध्यमातून आपल्याला कल्पना येईल. आणि म्हणून कोणती का होईना कला आपल्याकडे जर असेल तर नक्कीच मला जॉबसाठी उपयोग होऊ शकतो. तिसऱ्या दिवशी आम्ही ठेवलेलं आहे पर्सनल ब्रँडिंग युझिंग लिंक्डइन. पर्सनल ब्रँडिंग, बऱ्याच वेळा ब्रँडिंग प्रत्येकाचं ब्रँडिंग असतं, त्याबद्दल मी बोलायला नको. तसं व्यक्तिमत्वाचं सुद्धा एक ब्रँडिंग होतं, व्यक्तीचं सुद्धा ब्रँडिंग होत असतं. आणि ते जर ब्रँडिंग मला डेव्हलप करायचं असेल तर मी काय केलं पाहिजे, कशा रीतीनं माझ्या व्यक्तिमत्वाचा विकास केला पाहिजे, त्यासाठी तुम्हाला मार्गदर्शन मिळणार आहे. त्यानंतर इन्व्हेस्टमेंट बँकिंग या क्षेत्रामध्ये कोणकोणत्या जॉब ऑपॉर्च्युनिटीज मिळू शकतात, कारण आपल्याकडे कॉमर्सचे विद्यार्थी बरेचसे आहेत आणि या कॉमर्सच्या विद्यार्थ्यांसाठी हे क्षेत्र खरोखर खुलं असू शकतं. आणि म्हणून इन्व्हेस्टमेंट बँकिंग असा एक आम्ही विषय घेतलेला आहे. त्यानंतर मॉक शेअर ट्रेडिंग इन लाईव्ह मार्केट, हे आपले उपप्राचार्य स्वतः सोनटक्के सर आहेत, तेच हे सेशन घेणार आहेत. आणि म्हणून मी असं म्हटलं की ही जी सगळी व्याख्यानं आहेत, हे सगळं ऑनलाईन वेबिनार्स आहेत, ते सर्व आपण अटेंड करा. आणि शेवटच्या दिवशी हाऊ टू सेट करिअर ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह अँड वर्क टुवर्ड्स बेटर प्लेसमेंट. विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, प्लेसमेंट तुम्हालाही मिळणारच आहे, आज ना उद्या. ग्रॅज्युएट तुम्ही होणारच आहात, बरोबर ना. प्लेसमेंट मिळणार आहे, पण कोणत्या प्रकारची प्लेसमेंट मिळणार, ती मला चांगली प्लेसमेंट कशी मिळेल, त्यासाठी मी काय करणं गरजेचं आहे. आणि जर मला माझ्या आवडीचं क्षेत्र मिळालं तर त्यामध्ये आपली कार्यक्षमता वाढू शकते. प्रत्येकाला नोकरी व्यवसाय करायचा आहे, पण माझ्या आवडीची जर नोकरी मिळाली तर त्यामध्ये मी चांगल्या प्रकारचे इनपुट्स देऊ शकतो, चांगल्या कार्यक्षमतेने काम करू शकतो. मी फक्त कीर्ती कॉलेजचं शेवटचं उदाहरण देतो आणि थांबतो की कीर्ती कॉलेजमध्ये म्हटल्याप्रमाणे की अनेक प्रकारच्या एक्स्ट्रा करिक्युलर ऍक्टिव्हिटीज आहेत, त्यामध्ये एनसीसी, एनएसएस आहे. आणि म्हणून मी बऱ्याच वेळा सांगतो की एनसीसीचं प्लेसमेंट हे आमचं 100% प्लेसमेंट आहे. का प्लेसमेंट आहे, आणि म्हणून मी असं म्हणतो की तुम्ही ग्रॅज्युएट होणारच आहात. इफ यू आर ग्रॅज्युएट फ्रॉम एनी फॅकल्टी अँड इफ यू हॅव्हिंग द बी सर्टिफिकेट ऑर सी सर्टिफिकेट, नोबडी इज अनएम्प्लॉयड. आणि मी कॉलेज करता करता जर मला प्लेसमेंट मिळाली तर एक वेगळा आनंद मिळतो. आणि म्हणून अशा प्रकारचं जर एक्स्ट्रा करिक्युलरमध्ये भाग घेतला आणि हे जर पर्सनॅलिटी डेव्हलपमेंट करू शकलो आणि ह्या माध्यमातून जरा मार्गदर्शन मिळालं तर मला वाटतं ग्रॅज्युएशन होता होता चांगल्या प्रकारची प्लेसमेंट आपल्याला मिळू शकते आणि आपलं पर्सनॅलिटी डेव्हलपमेंट सुद्धा होऊ शकते याची मला खात्री आहे. परत एकदा या ऑनलाईन वेबिनारसाठी मी सर्वांचं स्वागत करतो. प्लेसमेंट सेल यांनी हा उपक्रम जो आयोजित केलेला आहे त्यांचं अभिनंदन करतो आणि पुढील 6 दिवसासाठी शुभेच्छा देतो आणि थांबतो. थँक्यू मॅडम, अँड ओव्हर टू ममता मॅडम. थँक्यू.
थँक्यू व्हेरी मच सर फॉर युअर व्हॅल्युएबल इनपुट्स. प्रत्येक विद्यार्थ्याचे स्वप्न असते आपण ग्रॅज्युएट झाल्यावर आपल्याला एक चांगली नोकरी मिळावी, स्वतःच्या पायावर उभे राहावं. त्यासाठी पहिली पायरी म्हणजे रिझ्यूम रायटिंग. आवर टुडेज स्पीकर्स प्रियांका जिनागौडा and Sonia Gaude. Both the speakers are our college faculties. Now, briefly, I will introduce Priyanka Jinagowda. At present, she is the coordinator of BMS department since 2017. She has also associated with JS Kotari Business School. She has done her MBA in marketing and international business. Our second speaker, Sonia Gaude, she is visiting faculty of BMS department. Her area of specialization is subject instructor of brand management, event marketing. She is management trainee in Datamatics Staffing Service Limited. She is also human resource trainee. I request her to proceed for today's session, resume writing workshop. Over to Sonia, madam. Sonia, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. All right. So let's begin with today's webinar. All right. So before we begin with the workshop today, I want all of you, okay, I want all of you to quickly do a small activity, that is simply pat your backs and congratulate yourself. Now you must be wondering, why am I doing this? So it's simply because you could make it to the workshop today, all right, in spite of all your work, like your deadlines, your busy schedule. So in fact, even making an attempt to, attending a workshop like this, it gives me a feeling and gives both of us a feeling, me and Priyanka ma'am, that you want to kind of explore yourself and understand the field of placement. You want to actually create a very promising resume for yourself. All right. So I'm again going to ask you a question. मैं और एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ, and I want all of you to think about it. Okay, what I'm asking. How do we decide whether we want to watch a particular movie? Okay. How do we decide? All right. So just give a thought to this question. I'm repeating the question again. How do we decide whether we want to watch a particular movie? I'm sure there are a lot of answers in your mind. Maybe the film star, maybe the storyline, maybe your favorite actor. Okay, but the most common answer that is in our minds, all of us, is that we decide whether we want to watch a particular movie based on the movie trailer. All right. I hope you all agree. If we find the movie trailer interesting, we're all set to watch the movie. So, you know what is that trailer in your life? That trailer is nothing but your life trailer is your resume. It's the resume that you carry in your corporate. It's the resume that you carry in your office for an interview. So when you present that particular trailer in the best possible manner, the interviewer then decides whether they want to watch your movie or no ahead. So what I mean by that is whether they are interested in hiring you further or no. So in today's workshop, our journey goes like, we want to make sure that we help you build the best trailer of life here. Okay, so just moving on to the next slide. There's a beautiful quote that is written in front of you, and I'm sure it's visible to all of you, and I want you to read it when I read it. All right, so it goes like, your dream job does not exist, you must create it. What does this mean? We all have our personal calling, we all have our passion, we all want to, we want to achieve something in life, but we need to understand one thing. Nothing in life is going to come for free. Okay, nothing in life is going to come the way we expect it to be. We need to work towards it. We need to take efforts towards building that particular life. And I think the little paper that we call resume is going to bring us a little closer towards our dream, is going to help us reach towards our dream a little more in a faster manner. Okay, so wo jo ladder hoti hai, all right, to reach that particular goal, resume writing, if it is done efficiently, might help us in achieving our so-called dreams in a much faster manner. So to succeed in today's job market, you have to think of your resume as an advertisement which is targeted towards your future boss. So I would like to call it either like an advertisement or like a movie trailer. You have to make this movie trailer really, really well so that you get chosen over other people. All right. So let's see how we're going to go about with this process. Next slide, please. We've been hearing this word resume since a very long time, right? So most probably after we graduated from our college, in our school maybe, we have mispronounced this word. We have at times even written the spelling wrongly and a lot of other factors, right? But let me tell you what the word actually is, all right? So it's basically a French word which means summary. So summary is nothing but, a gist or a paragraph of your ideologies, of your thinking, personality, etc. All right. So the best tip or the best idea in which you can make your resume is always tailor your resume as per the job description. Now, how we're going to tailor it and all of that stuff, we will be surely explaining. All right. And a small request to all of you, whatever queries that you have during the session, etc., we're going to have like a quick Q&A at the end. So hold on to your queries, and at the end you can just start drawing all the queries in the chat box. So one we can answer, like we'll try our level best to solve all your queries. Okay, so just hold on to them. At the end of the session we can definitely reach out to each one of you. All right. Next is, it's a marketing tool that highlights your personality. I'm sure at some point of your life, if not, then I would like to tell you, we've heard this, right? Resume writing is like, you have to go in an interview and you have to sell yourself in front of the interviewer. So it's basically like, to put it in a better word, it's a marketing tool that's going to highlight your personality. You have to look so promising in an interview. All right, you have to look so out of the box in an interview that it has to convince the interviewer at that point immediately, that definitely they can hire you on board. All right, and all those quick tips, all those pro tips, all right, we'll be coming up with it, so don't worry. All right, all you have to do is just relax and let's just come with us in the session as we move ahead. Okay, so you can just take a deep breath, be very relaxed, grab a cup of coffee maybe, and be very in the zone. All right, I'm sure this resume writing session is going to be life changing. You'll definitely have major key takeaways out of it. So I request you, if possible, you can just grab a pen and paper quickly and make a note of all the points that you feel are important or can be beneficial for you in the future. All right. So next, like I've already began, it's like a successful movie trailer, so I don't want to talk about it again. I'm sure it's all clear in your mind as to how we go about it. All right. So there's a secret code which I call 3 F's to great resume, all right, which you can see in front of your screen. If you follow or maybe decode this code, you will be able to efficiently write your resumes really, really well. All right. So let's see what the code is. All right. Number one is function. Whenever you begin with preparing for a resume writing, all right, whenever you think of making a resume, first have clarity as to why you are actually framing the resume. All right, be very sure कि exact idea क्या है, आप क्यों resume लिख रहे हो. So is it because you want to apply for an internship, so it will be like a short period of work, right? Is it because you want to apply for a full-time job? Then next is have the job description next to you. So what is job description? Is all the advertisements that you see around as to there's a requirement for a particular candidate, right? So have all that in place. So you got to tailor your resume, understand the function first, and then sit and frame the resume. If there's a vague idea in your mind as to how you're supposed to go about with the resume writing, things can go really, really wrong, right? So number one, the first decoding to this particular formula is, have a clear idea of what the function of your resume is. Second is form. All right. There's a very, very, an understanding that whatever is visually appealing is always very attractive, right? So form is nothing but your resume should be very much, in place, in alignment. The idea, the pictorial look of your resume should be on point. When I'm talking about the form of the resume should be grammatical free. All right. There should be no errors at all. The subtitles should be clear. So I'm definitely going to talk about what are the essential titles, subheaders that you're supposed to put in a resume. All right, and we're going to have like a practical session as to how actually you frame a particular resume. But for now, let's just identify these important areas. Okay, so that's about the form, that is the visual aesthetics of the resume. Next is the effectiveness. All right, anything which is effective, to put it very simply, anything which is effective and powerful is remembered by us forever, right? So the third F is effectiveness. Your resume has to look very powerful, very effective, and usually a combination of both. Okay, now this is a very interesting diagram that I want to talk about. That is the popular structures adopted. All right. Now, every candidate, every individual is different in their expertise, all right, area of expertise, the way they want to apply for a particular job. Everybody comes with a different age group, all right, with different file of experience and all of that stuff. So let's understand what are the different structures adopted when you kind of begin with framing of your resume. So सबसे first structure is the chronological structure. Now these look like really heavy jargons, but I'm going to simplify it for you. So once I start explaining you, maybe you will be able to connect to what I'm trying to say exactly. Okay. So chronological structure, ये जो structure होता है, this is usually applicable to those individuals who are experienced in their overall career. Okay. So people maybe who are wanting to switch their particular job, they come with maybe 5-6 years of experience. So in chronological structure, usually, all right, the main emphasis is on your work experience, all right, and there's a reverse chronology that you follow, that is your most recent experience comes at the top, all right, followed by all the preceding back years experience. So that is about chronological structure. What you have to, for your notes purpose, I'll tell you, chronological structure is applicable to experienced candidates, like I said, and it begins with the work experience, all right, the focus is on work experience. Second part, the second green color, beautiful ring that you see is the functional structure. All right, this is a very, very famous and structure I can talk about, because this is the structure we have to follow immediately after we graduate from college. All right, so the fresh graduates, this structure is for you guys, because at this structure, all right, the main focus is usually on your education, all right, your skills, etc. Why? Because simply you maybe you may be not having that particular job experience. So here you are totally judged on your educational qualifications, your certificates, your credentials, and all of that. All right. Now let's see the next string, all right, which is a combination structure. The only reason why it is in the center, all right, with a different color altogether, it's because combination structure is usually, like the name suggests, a combination of both the structures, all right, that is chronological structure and functional structure. A quick recap, all right. Chronological structure was because when you have like an experience, you're an experienced candidate, so you basically have focus on work experience. Functional structure is when you are like a newbie entering the market, right? So the experience, like the focus is on educational qualification. Now coming to the combination structure, it's basically a combination of both. Usually people make use of the structure when they're looking for a job change. All right. At times, there are people who have a particular, years of experience, but they're looking for a switch into a new area altogether. All right. So their resumes can look like having a gist of both, like a work experience by focus, as well as a lot of focus on your educational qualifications, credentials, etc. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so this slide looks really very colorful and interesting, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's quickly break this code of what are the 4 C's to a great resume. All right. Again, like I'm saying, it's a lot of theory. I'm doing like a background setting as to what resume is. We'll definitely look into the practical aspects. We're actually going to help you, like handhold you as to actual resume kaise banate hain. All right. So the first aspect that you see at number 1 is the critical thinking. All right. Now you must be thinking that already we are like not in the right state to understand what the resume is and how we should go about with the setting, etc. So with this particular model, maybe you will get a little clarity as to what are the essential competencies and skills that you need to involve, you need to write in your particular resumes, which might help you give you like your dream job. All right, so let's begin with the critical thinking part. All right, critical thinking is basically, when you sit for an interview, what is the expectation that an interviewer has from your resume. Your resume should always display certain such skills that highlight incidences or episodes where you have been able to solve a problem. Now when I'm talking about problem solver, not necessary that that experience might come only from your corporate or your past qualification and all of that. That experience of problem solving can be as simple as maybe you've taken up a leadership opportunity in your past, all right. Maybe you have been like a volunteer and there was like sudden some problem in a particular event, and you have been the person who actually solved that particular problem. So that's critical thinking. So when you sit for an interview, all right, and you have the skills column, we'll be seeing how do you like actually frame the skills column. So wahan pe it's important that you have a particular experience again. Okay, it should be like a genuine skill, all right. Not you don't have to cook up or make up any stories, all right. The more you're honest, the better for you, all right. So critical thinking is that aspect which needs to be highlighted there, all right. And again, when you're highlighting this particular aspect in your resume, it's not important that you just show them the results as to, I'm a good negotiator, I was able to solve this particular problem. The best resumes are those who have the process explained, all right. So moving on to the next part, that is the collaboration, all right. Collaboration is again on the similar lines of problem solving. So the second factor that the resume, like the interviewers are looking for in your resume is nothing but the factor of collaboration, all right, the factor of team building. So जैसे मैंने बोला कि recruiters are looking for skills like problem solving, they're also looking for something like collaboration. Because remember one thing, when you're working in the corporate, you cannot win alone, all right. That's the hard and fast rule of corporate. You have to kind of collaborate with everybody and take all of you, it's like winning together. That's what corporate is, all right. And not just corporate, but any area that you kind of enter. It can be academics, it can be art, it can be science, it can be anything, all right. It's about demonstrating skills like collaboration that might strengthen your resume as a whole, all right. So if you can include that particular skill, then your resume might look very promising, all right. And again, whatever skills you kind of include, you should be able to justify the same, not just for the sake of writing, right. Next is communication. Now, I cannot emphasize on the importance of communication and how and why it is important. All right. Now, whatever I am talking is again communication. So, if there's a little ambiguity, thoda sa bhi disturbance hai, all right, or if I'm going off track, maybe a little fast, little slow, it might, disturb the entire agenda of why I'm communicating, right? So, similarly, in the resume also, all right, the communication has to be loud and clear. Now, when I'm talking about communication, you must be a little confused as to resume or communication, how they're connected. So I'll tell you, when you submit a particular resume in the hand of an interviewer, all right, on the day of the interview, maybe, or at the beginning, all right, that's like a written communication that you submit to the interviewer, all right, in which you have actually written down all the do's and what you stand for. It's like maine bola, it's like the movie trailer that you've sent as to what you are actually, so what you are as a person in real, right. So the resume has to be written in a very eloquent and a very meticulous way, all right. There should not be any scope for any kind of error, any kind of grammatic mistakes. I'll tell you why. Because a little of grammatical mistakes, trust me, when you sit as an interviewer there, the first eye always goes on the mistake, and you will be surprised to know that. So if your resume is not kind of framed that well, there are chances you might miss out on the job if the written communication is not that well. Now, coming to the oral communication, all right. Now, what is the connection between resume and your oral communication? When you're sitting there giving an interview, the interviewer also has your resume in their hand, all right. So what you have written in the resume and what you're speaking, both of it should be in alignment, all right. If there is a disconnect, so wahan pe there are chances, there might be credibility issues. So that can really really be disastrous for your career. So make sure, first of all, you need to be very honest, all right, and don't make up stories which you cannot cover up for later on, right. So that's about communication, again very important and very crucial, which stands at number 3. And the last part is the competency, all right. Let me break down this word competency for you. Competency is nothing but the skills that you portray, all right. Again, competency is a kind of a skill which is again on a long term manner. So let me explain you with an example, all right, why competency will kind of lead you to a great resume. Whenever you find an advertisement or on maybe Naukri portals, LinkedIn portals, you find that particular job description which says requirement for a technical expert, all right, requirement for maybe an HR professional, all right, it's important for you to kind of quickly do an analysis of how the job description is, what are they exactly expecting from you, and do those expectations, does that education qualification, all right, which is written in the job description, or else all of that goes in sync. So make sure that all of that is in sync when you're kind of understanding about competency. Okay, so if your job description and your resume is not in sync, that can really be very, very sad. All right, so that's about the 4 C's of great communication. Next slide, please. Now let's quickly look at the essentials and the optional factors that are important in your resume sections and titles. For now, I'll give like a quick read. Okay, the actual demonstration will be done to you. All right, so we'll take care of that. Number one, and the most essential part of resume sections and titles. All right, so the must have, all right, the mandatory sections are your personal details, your qualification, experience, project work, and research work. Very, very crucial. All right. And the skills and the language that you portray should be, so it's like an essential part in your resume. Now let's see what are an optional parts. At like this section is, there is a little bit of like you can maybe miss out on them again. All right. It depends on how you want it to be. Okay, so let's see the optional parts, that is your honors and awards. All right, the volunteer activities, workshops, seminars attended, curricular and extracurricular activities. So this part may be, all right, it goes in like an optional factor, but the essential ones have to be on your resume. Next part, please. Okay, so now I would like to invite Miss like Priyanka ma'am to kind of explain you the exact demonstration of the template. So yeah, over to you, Priyanka ma'am.
Thank you, Sonia. Until now, I think we've had a more theoretical approach to what should go on your resume. So let's have a look at the template, which would give you a fair idea. So this is a sample template that we worked on. The practices these days would prefer that you submit a one-page resume, particularly for the freshers. So assuming most of the attendees today are undergraduate students, so we have restricted our template to a one-page resume. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in a bit so that we can discuss each of these sections in detail. So the first half, or the top 1/3 area of your resume, is something that you would like to highlight, because that is what is going to capture or grab the attention of the interviewer. So you would want to mention your name. You might want to put up an image of yourself, right? You should also provide your personal contact details, as you can see here, right? Your email ID, your telephone number, your address, your LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn has also become a very, very important credential to include on your resume. Right? We do have a workshop lined up this week, which speaks about how you can brand yourself as an individual on the professional network that's LinkedIn. Now, about the email ID, you also need to be very mindful of the fact that your email ID should also sound very professional, right? So you would have your email ID as priyanka@gmail.com or priyanka.jinagowda@gmail.com. We wouldn't want emails as Miss Pretty or just richa@gmail.com. We wouldn't want email IDs as these to go on your resume. So you have to create an email ID that sounds good on your resume, sounds professional on the resume, right? When you write down your mobile number, make sure that is the one that you would be using for the next few weeks or months at least, so that the organization can get back to you on that number. An address, the postal address, and the LinkedIn profile is what we've selected. We then move on to a very, very important inclusion on your resume, that is a career objective. Now, we have come across the term objective very often. An objective is something that you wish to achieve. A career objective is something that you wish to achieve in your career, during your career path. The career objective should essentially begin with an infinitive verb. Now, what's an infinitive verb? As you can see, I have just highlighted it on my screen. Right? It should begin with the word to followed by a verb. To secure, to learn, to understand, to analyze, to grow. Right? So these are some examples of infinitive verb. You start with the word to and you add a verb that follows. Objective statements, every objective statement begins with an infinitive. A career objective will also begin with an infinitive verb. So the example that you can see on the screen here is to secure a challenging position in a reputable organization, to expand my learnings, knowledge, and skill. We'll stop at the first sentence. So what idea would this give away to the interviewer? It will tell about you as a person, that you are looking to secure a challenging position. So you are someone who would be performing well in a challenging situation. You wouldn't want a very relaxing situation. You want a challenging situation. So this word also speaks something about you as an individual. And yes, that you want to be associated with a reputed organization. And this profile, which is challenging as per your understanding, is going to help you expand your learning. It's going to enhance your knowledge, and it's also going to enhance your skill. So that's what the first career objective sentence speaks of. You can limit to only one sentence in the career objective, or you might add two. But overall, make sure your career objective is not beyond 4 to 5 lines. I'm not saying sentences, but limit your career objective to only 4 to 5 lines. Now let's have a look at the second sentence. To secure a responsible opportunity to fully utilize my training and skills while making a significant contribution to the success of the company. So what does this sentence speak of? It mentions that you are looking to utilize and put to use the knowledge, the skill, and the training that you've acquired. And as you're doing this, you're going to contribute to the success of the company. So it's going to be a win-win situation. The individual benefits, right, with this opportunity that he's been able to apply the skill sets that he has. And yes, the organization will also benefit from his skill sets. So this is how a career objective is going to be. You can look up online, you can Google for a few sample career objectives, but one recommendation, do not pick up a career objective just as you find online. Do try to combine a few or write your own, right? That would always be appreciable if you're able to write your own career objective, right? It should be a true replication of you as an individual. But if you feel you're not very adept at writing it down, it's okay to look up online, combine a few career objectives and phrase it. Also make sure that it also justifies your career path. If you're going to be a marketing individual, or if you want to be a financial analyst, or if you're going to be someone in the line of software, a coder or a programmer. So accordingly, you will have to try to include a few keywords in the career objective, which gives away an idea about what your career objective is. This career objective, this sample career objective that we have included here on the template, is a very generic objective which can be applicable to students across all the streams. Okay, after the career objective, let's move on to the education, right? Now for people who come with experience, right, on the resume, after your career objective, the experience would add up. But assuming most of you are undergraduate students, right, still pursuing your studies, we have included education after the objective. Now, if you're highly experienced with about 5 to 10 years of industry experience, your experience will come way above the education slide, because that's what is going to matter. That's going to be an important credential to hire you, your experience, which is spanning over a decade. Right? But if you're a fresher with a relatively less experience of a year or less, if you have only projects and internships to your credentials, then what you need to highlight is your education. So this is also a sample that we've discussed. You will first mention your qualification if you're currently pursuing it, right? So you're going to write it as BMS, marketing, or maybe you're from finance. So this block is actually a specialization, right? So let's say we have someone who's from BCom, who's pursuing a course in particularly in accounting and finance. Let's say we have somebody who's a student of BA, Bachelor of Arts, pursuing a course in mass media and communication. So the specialization will follow after the backslash. And then you also need to mention the duration of your study, right? This would highlight the duration of your course, whether it's a 3-year program, a 4-year program. And if you're still studying, if you're still in the final year or final semester, you will not mention this. You will write pursuing. You will mention that you're still pursuing this course, or if you've completed, you can also write down awaiting results. But a more standard practice is where you mention pursuing. You then have to mention your college name and the location, sorry, the university name that you have completed this course from. Then your grading system. There are different universities, different colleges which has different grading systems. There might be CGPA, there might be grades, there might simply be a percentage format or a pointer format like they have in IITs and IIMs. So you might want to mention your grade here on the last slide. So if there is a CGPA and grading, please do mention that as well. Then we move on to the next chronological sequence. Now, Ms. Sonia has very well explained about the various structures, the chronological structure. Now, as you can see in the education, we are following a chronological structure. What was your most recent qualification? That's your graduation, that's BMS. So I'm going to highlight that first, followed by my HSC, which is 12, and then the SSC. Now, let's say you are a student of postgraduate. You're pursuing your career in management. So you're a student of MBA. So the first detail that you mention under education would be MBA / finance and the year and details. And then you're going to write out your graduation details, that is BCom or BMS. So this is about education and the importance of chronology. Please do not start with your 10th, your 12th, and then your most recent qualification. We need to follow the reverse chronology here. After education, we are going to move on to another important point, which is extremely crucial, the skills, or like some people like to call it, the strengths. It is important that you highlight this as well. What are you so good at, right? Apart from what your mark sheet says about you, or apart from the job opportunities that you have, you should also believe that you possess a certain skill sets. And that's what you need to highlight on this resume, right? Also make sure that you do not write more than 3 to 4 skill sets unless you're a superhuman or a superhero, right? So considering we are all humble human beings, let's stick to only 3 or 4 strengths or skills, right? So some examples that you see on the screen here are problem solving. Okay, this highlights a very important skill. That means that if you face a situation, if you face a challenging situation, which you've already mentioned here, the very fact that my career objective mentions that I want to secure a role in a challenging situation is because I believe myself to be a problem solver, right? So you have to try and link your skills with your career objective, with maybe a few experiences or a certification or a few workshops that you would have attended. The next skill is adaptability. That means I can adapt well with people, I can adapt to situations, etc. A strong work ethic. This is also something that a lot of organizations look for, right? But if you're going to be in the role of sales, or if you're going to be involved in certain roles where probably this is not so crucial for the recruiter, work ethic is something that does not hold much importance for that particular job description. So you wouldn't want to include it here. Then comes time management, right? That you're very watchful of your time, that you do and perform all your duties well on time, right? And not the person who runs around at the 11th hour. So time management is also an important skill. There are a few more examples, right? So considering that this example was for the role of a business development executive. So what is a business development executive? This is an individual who is involved in sales, right? This is just a very subtle term for a sales executive, that is the business development executive. Now, for someone who is applying for a role of business development or sales, right, certain skill sets such as negotiation or communication or networking ability would also be quite beneficial. Okay, so after the skills, let's move on to the experience section. Okay, some of you may not have credentials to add under this title. So it's okay, you might simply exclude it. You can simply delete it from your resume. It's not compulsory, assuming most of you are still pursuing your graduation. So, but nonetheless, I've added an example here because we do have some students who um, earn as well as learn at our institutes. So for them, let's assume there's an example here. Okay, the experience speaks like this, that this student has worked as a management trainee. So you need to highlight what your designation is, put it up in bold, avoid underlining, avoid using multiple colors on your screen. As you can see, for the textual part, there are only two colors that I've used. It's a maroon or a color, a reddish maroon color, and black, right? We do not want to have multiple colors, right? We do not want your resume to be very vivid, right? Except if you're applying for a role which requires you to be more creative, more artistic. So if we have students of mass media, or if we have students of fashion technology or architecture, right? They would want to pep up their resume with the use of more vibrant colors or creativity, right? Because their roles demand them to be very creative. So when you add your experience, okay, the designation which says you're a management trainee, you also need to mention the name of an organization. These are just hypothetical organizations, right? Shah and Sons, the location, okay, Dadar, Mumbai. And since when are you associated? Since September 2020 till present. Or let's say you've completed the term there, then you should also mention the month and the year. Now, if you've noticed, when we mentioned your qualification, we never mentioned the month. We've only mentioned the year, okay? Because it's assumed that most academic calendars begin around a certain time, and which is more universal. So this is going to highlight your academic calendar, but here you have to particularly mention the month. You can skip including the dates. That's not so important, okay? Then comes the most important part when you are speaking about the experience that you've gathered. Right? What was your role there? What exactly did you do there? Just the mere fact that you were a management trainee does not speak about what your role was. Okay. So when you speak about your experience, please notice the fact that the first word at each of these sentences are verbs again, action verbs, strong action verbs in the past tense. Okay. So the first word, I studied, right? You studied the perception of customers with reference to. So maybe whatever the lines of products are, whatever sector or industry they belong to, you may particularly complete the sentence. So you studied the perception, you identified the target customers. So this example again justifies the role of this individual, which is business development executive. You provided inputs to the team. Maybe there was a role which meant that you were a team leader. So you were heading a group of 10 individuals, right? Or you were heading a group of 10 salesmen. So you were a management trainee, you were a business development executive, and you were to overlook 10 salesmen, right? So you could also include that, right? You measured. So maybe there was an activity which meant you were supposed to go through certain facts, certain reports, and measure the impact of a certain campaign, etc. So the first word of your sentences, which speaks about your experience, should be a strong action word in the past tense, because this is something that you've performed already. Right? If there's a new role that they've assigned to you, which you will begin next month, that is not something you can include. That is something that you will be performing in the subsequent days. Right? So this is about experience. Now let's also speak about project work, which most curriculums include these days, particularly in the final year. Okay, so maybe there's an academic research project that you've conducted. So which year did you conduct it? TYBMS. So maybe there's somebody who's from BCA or BSc Computer Science or IT, right? So they might also have a project work, right, which is going to be in the third year. If it's from engineering, you're going to write it as TE, okay, or final year, right, third year, final year, etc. If there is any specialization that you have chosen, could be finance, could be accounting, right, based on your course, What was your project line? What is the project title? The project title should appear here as it is. An analytical study or on, okay? Or let's say there is somebody from the software background who's planning to prepare an application. Okay, so that project title could come here, where they've worked towards developing an application, a mobile application, or developing a website or a software or a solution, right? They could be students of commerce, of accounting and finance, or from economics background who worked on a project which deals with an analytical or an evaluative study of balance sheets of certain organizations, right? So this is how you put in your project title. Your project title should also be very impactful. Then again, the first word that describes your project will also be a strong action word in its past tense. What did you study? You've studied, or you've analyzed, you have evaluated, you've conducted a market survey on, or a consumer survey on, okay? Or you've conducted a secondary research on, or a primary research on. You have designed a prototype, you have developed a product, you've developed an application, right? So begin with a strong action word in its past tense. It'll all end with ed. That means it's in the past tense. And maybe there could be a conclusion. There could be a few recommendations and suggestions also that you have in your project work. So what was your conclusion? You've concluded that, or you suggest, or you recommend that. Okay, so this is how you speak about your project details. Now moving again to the left part of the column, which speaks about certification. Okay. Again, maybe some of you might not have these credentials to mention, so you can skip this. But the moment you skip this part, there's going to be a void on the resume. So you need to adjust. So maybe you can add, increase the indentation, you can increase the line spacing, or you can increase the font size, right? Miss Sonia will speak about the indentation, the formatting tips, etc. But if there is a gap, if there's a void that is going to be created on the resume, make sure you have something that goes there. Okay. So an example here, a certification in digital marketing. Okay. Then you need to mention what was the duration of the certification. There are a lot of one-day certificate programs also. But that would clearly give away the idea that it wasn't an in-depth or an hands-on experience-based certification. So when I mentioned that I have completed a certification in digital marketing, which went on for a rigorous 200 hours, that means, yes, this kind of certification program would have also given me an in-depth understanding and a hands-on experience. You might also want to mention the institute or the organization, the authority who's giving away the certification, because this also adds to the authenticity. Right? Where have you pursued the certification? There could be a lot of local organizations also who give away such certificates, or they could be a reputed institute or government, right? So you should also mention where you've completed the certification from. Also the location and the month particularly, or maybe a day, okay? Or the year when you've completed the certification. Another example is NISM. Okay, this is something which the students of commerce, accounting, finance could relate to, right? So this is a certification which comes with multiple levels. There are level 1, 2, 4 or 5, right? So what level have you completed? So NISM certification level 1, it took me 6 months to complete or 1 month to complete. It's just a hypothetical number that you see on the screen. It's important that you highlight what level you are at. Okay, maybe you've completed a certification in a foreign language. So if I'm learning German from Max Muller, I'm still at level 2. It took me 2 years to complete this, or I'm at a diploma level, right? So you can also mention all of that here. Again, you need to mention the institute. Now for certification such as NISM, it's a well-known organization, right? So, NISM certification, you need not mention who is the issuer of the certificate. Right? So this was completed in June 2020. You have to mention the month and year of completion here. Now, after certification, let's say you've not had many certificates to your credentials. you can definitely work towards adding something under the tab of seminars and workshops, right? Particularly now during the times of COVID, when everything went on a total lockdown, there are a lot of seminars and workshops, and a lot of them are being conducted for free. So you might want to attend a few seminars and workshops where there is a participation certificate also that gets issued, right? So some examples here: a livestock trading, a 2-day workshop organized by so and so institute by NMITD, which was organized in Mumbai in the month May 2019. Right? So this is a workshop that you've attended, a seminar that you've attended. This can go in your credentials. Or the next one is maybe a workshop which is based on negotiation skills. It was a week-long workshop. See, it's important that you mention the duration. Was it a 2-day workshop? Okay, was it a 1-week workshop? Maybe you could also add another keyword which says 2-day hands-on workshop by NMITD. What does that mean? That you could also try out these tools for livestock trading. Or negotiation skills, 1-week workshop organized by GSKBS. And again, an example, right, which is in the month of June 2020. Right, so 1 week means it might have been a very rigorous workshop with a lot of interaction and participation. So this would also be an effective workshop. Okay, or a 2-hour workshop or a 1-hour workshop, right? You can add all these credentials, right? So once again, an appeal: if you don't have much to add under the tab of certification, please make sure you attend a few seminars and workshops so that there is no void to the left side of your resume. There's going to be a column here. So add at least 3 or 4. Now, if you've attended 10 or 20, you will obviously not be able to add all of them here. So you need to identify which one of them are going to be crucial for your selection. So if you're applying for the role of a business executive for marketing, right? I know for a fact that maybe my workshop in livestock trading is not going to highlight me. So I may be able to skip including that, right? Whereas I know that I have a lot of workshop which deals with sales, negotiation skills, personal grooming, etc. So I would want to highlight these kind of workshops, right? If you have certifications and seminars, you also have to be mindful about what exactly goes on your resume. Gone are those days where you could submit a resume which went on for 3, 4 or more pages, right? The attention span of the interviewer is also going to be short, and you need to make that impact using a 1-page resume. Now comes the positions of responsibilities held and the co-curricular and extracurricular activities. Now, there's a reason why we've identified 2 different tabs here. The placement cell of Kirti College, we've put in a lot of research and efforts to identify all these subheaders. Okay, together we've prepared this template, right? So, and we feel that it's important that we separate these 2 roles. And there could be a lot of students who are not very active in participation. Maybe they're not even winners of competitions. But we've observed a lot of students who are very active when it comes to taking up responsibilities. So you can put up a tab here which speaks about positions of responsibilities that you've held as a student or maybe even at organizations. So let's say you were an event host, okay? A more professional term for this is MOC, which means Master of Ceremonies, okay? That means you're going to compere during an event, right? So this is also a responsible role that you've played. Okay, maybe you were an event head, maybe you were a co-head. Let's say you were a treasurer, you could be a volunteer. This is also a very crucial role. Or you've been a class representative, right? This is also a very, very responsible position, right? So highlight a few positions of responsibilities that you've held. If you are from a commerce background, from accounting and finance, and if you've been a treasurer for your department's event or for some other event, or even it could be a local it could be an organization in your locality where they organize Ganesh festivals, etc. And if you have the opportunity to work in the treasury team, right, that's going to highlight your responsibilities, right, which is going to align with the role of commerce, accounting, and finance. Okay. So after the positions of responsibility, we move on to co-curricular. Now, what do you mean by co-curricular? That means co-curricular are activities that are related to your curriculum, related to your studies, related to your academics. So if you are from computer science or IT background, right? If you have participated in a lot of coding events, or you've participated in hackathons, etc., that's going to be co-curricular activity, because that is related to your curriculum, your academics. If you are from accounting and finance or BCom, there are a lot of events these days which is about mock trading, or about analysis of balance sheets. A lot of colleges organize such events. So if you participate, right, and if you win, it's okay if you don't win, but the mere fact that you are an eager participant is also an important point to highlight, right? So this is what is a co-curricular activity. Then we move on to extracurricular activities. This is something which is over and above. This is beyond your academics, beyond your curriculum. Could be cultural activities, could be sports, right? Even the fact that you're actively involved in a lot of social service, right? You would also want to highlight all those activities. But this is a statement that I would urge everybody to include in their resume under this tab. If you're not very active in the co-curricular field, do not include that title. You will simply write extracurricular activities. If you're not involved in cultural and sports, you will simply write co-curricular activities. But if you have both to mention, under this tab is going to be eager participant at various academic, cultural, sports, whichever is applicable to you, sports events at both school and college. Okay, and then you can mention that you've secured first place, or you were a runner-up, or you were a participant at multiple cultural activities or multiple events, sports activities such as cricket, kabaddi, etc. Then you can write down the particulars here in detail. Okay, so once again, let me quickly brush through the various subheadings that you should include in your resume. First is your name. If you're working currently, okay, you need to add your designation. Also include a picture. Please remember, you do not need to put up a picture that you would use on your social media handles, right? This is a professional document. You need to add an image which looks professional, right? So include an image, then you need to add your personal details here. Then you will mention a career objective. Try to write one yourself, right? You should replicate your ambition, okay, your career aspirations here. If not, it's okay to look up online and combine a few, okay? But do not pick up any career objective from the internet as is. Okay, you will then mention skills, which could be your strengths, your educational background in the chronology where your most recent qualification comes first. Then comes certification, seminars and workshops that you would have attended, experience, right? If you don't have any experience, right, you should add some more content here, or you can increase the font size, change the indentation, increase the line spacing, okay? But make sure that you fill up both the columns equally. Then we have your project work. Most courses these days have a compulsory project work in their final year. Positions of responsibilities that you've held, and the co-curricular and extracurricular activities that you've been a part of. Okay, so this is about the resume template. Try sticking to one-page template as much as possible. Why is that so is something that Ms. Sonia is going to guide you over. So thank you so much. Ms. Sonia, can you please continue?
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, Priyanka ma'am. That was like an excellent demonstration of resume writing. I'm sure all of us got like quick tips as to how effectively we're supposed to frame the resume. What are like the quick do's and don'ts that we got to follow while preparing one. All right. So thank you so much, Priyanka ma'am. So the next slide, please. Now, this is a problem which usually we have been, facing a lot. All right. We think that we have a lot to kind of showcase. We want to kind of put in a lot of things, and we don't know how are we going to manage all of that. Like Priyanka ma'am has already explained, a one page resume is like a good to go document, because like we all know that the attention span of the recruiter is again very low. So if you have like a long storybook kind of a resume which goes over and above 2 pages maybe, that can be like a little problem. So always try and make sure that your resume is maximum, like minimum 1 page, all right. And if you are like a fresher, then 1 page has to be like the best. But in case if you are like an experienced candidate, then you might move on to 2 pages. Okay, but then again, 1 pager is a good to go resume. Now, if you're facing through this difficulty of a too long resume or a lot of information in 1 page, and if you are looking forward to how, a little tips as to how you can shorten the same, so these pointers might help you. So let's see. Let's begin with the tips. So you can maybe begin with, narrowing down the margins at times. So the resumes that I've been looking onto, or the people who kind of, when I was in the talent acquisition field, I saw a lot of people having resumes with a lot of wide, broad margins. A lot of space was being vacant, at times wasted. So the first tip is you can begin with narrowing down your margins. So second part is go down to font size 10. So I'll be giving you like the formatting and the alignment tips. In case if the font size is like, maybe 15, 15 is not at all acceptable. It should be maximum 12. But in case if it is, over and above to that, so try coming down to font size 10. It might help you to, kind of narrow down your resume, the size especially. Next is personal information need not be more than 2 or 3 lines. I think 3 lines is again a lot. Two should be the best. In case if you're kind of, even if the career objective that you kind of have, like Priyanka ma'am has already explained what it is, how you're supposed to frame one, how writing your own career objective adds on to the knowledge and, builds your credential as a human being. Again, the career objective should be short and crisp. It can kind of have like 2 3 sentences, but again a limited career objective. Then at times the work experience, so a lot of experienced candidates go through this problem where they have a lot to kind of put in the resume, and the resume can just go on and on, adding to a lot of pages. But cut short as much as you can. Identify areas which are crucial, like we've already discussed. Look at the job description. What are the skills that the job is demanding from, the essential skills, and accordingly try and keep certifications, maybe workshops attended, maybe with in line to what the job description or what the nature of the role is like. So all the irrelevant stuff, it's time to delete all of that. So that's the next point, that you need to edit, delete items that are of lower importance or not so important for that particular job description. Next slide, please. Now, this is like a go-to slide. I think, it would be great if you can just make a note of these quick tips for you to kind of, build a very efficient, error-free, and a good resume. So the tips begin like the very important tip, that is you should always aim for 1 page resume only. Anything which is above that can become a problem, but we do understand at times it's not really possible to kind of fit in all the information in 1 page. In those cases, like for especially for technical experts, etc., you need to showcase certain coursework, you need to showcase certain areas of expertise, because that kind of justifies your work, your talent, etc. So with that case, you can go up to 2 pages, but anything about 2 pages, kind of, there are chances the resume can get can get rejected, or you might not connect well with the recruiter. Next is single font throughout. A single font followed in the resume is always visually appealing. It's a uniform, and neatness is very important. If you have like a lot of fonts running, it can be a little problem. Max to max, you can highlight the bold, you can highlight the headers which are supposed to be made bold. So a single font throughout, all right. Then Times New Roman, Arial fonts are always the fonts you should follow. They are like the standard format. And the size, again, you should go for minimum 10 and maximum 12, not anything over and beyond that. And like I've shared the tip, if you feel that there's a lot of content, you can always stick to size 10. All right. Next is decide on an overall design scheme. Now, what do I mean by deciding on an overall design scheme? So whether if you want to follow, the format of, you want to use bullet pointer format, or if you want to have different paragraph format, so you can decide on that for, having like your design scheme. So have that clear picture. So it's like the first F that we kind of spoke of. Have your function, have clarity as to how you exactly want to pursue with that particular activity. So the design scheme has to be fixed in your mind well in advance. Next is use action verbs. I think this part is beautifully covered by Priyanka ma'am already when she was kind of demonstrating the different areas and the way you're supposed to put forth your job experience, work experience. So to give you an example, like a one-line example is, you're never supposed to write something like, I was a manager at a particular, company. That's not the way it's supposed to be written. The good line always goes like, I managed so and so activities. All right. So always have verbs that you kind of action verbs that you kind of use when you write your particular resume, especially the work experience and the volunteer activities part and all of that. Next is neatness and readability. Now, this should go without saying. Aim for maximum neatness, proper alignment. If there are certain headers that follow a particular sequence, like we saw, the usual sequence goes like, there's a left hand side, there's a right hand side usually has like your work experience. At times even the education part can be at focus if you are like an entry level candidate wanting to begin your career in corporate. Okay, so with all of that, make sure that the alignment, the font size use, the colors also, like we saw, we don't want a lot of jazzy looking resumes with a lot of different colors. So at times, it can also spoil our eyes. We don't really enjoy looking at such resumes. Always solid colors with a combination of white is a good color to go with always. And if you want to kind of add little of colors, always go for solid colors. So a blue, light pink are good to go, but again, stick to white. That's a great color to follow. Next slide, please. Now, let's look at the quick golden rules for an effective resume. So just imagine a scenario where you are, wanting to get that dream job. You're wanting to actually get a call from that company. So what is the preparation that you need to do? Trust me, you can be a human with a lot of talent, with a lot of experience, but because of silly mistakes in case of like the formatting of your resume can really cause a big time problem. So if you want to be that complete, if you want to prepare yourself for actually getting the company that you dream for or wanting to begin your career somewhere, you need to follow these golden rules, and let's see what are them. All right. The first golden rule begins with the saving format. Now, this is where most of us, you know, do a lot of mistakes. You maybe type in, you maybe, have a lot number of attempts to kind of, prepare the resume, etc. So you have like in bracket number one, number two, number three, number four. And the entire way, the saving format is all messed up. At times you use your own font to kind of save it. And I've seen candidates actually just forwarding the same format to the recruiter. Trust me, if I receive a format which says maybe alex123.pdf, I'm the first person. I'll not even open the document. I'm going to reject it there and there. So it becomes a responsibility to save the format in a particular official manner. And the ideal way in which you're going to save the resume, it goes like, it should be your first name underscore last name underscore resume dot pdf. Now, the second point talks about the PDF format only. Now, it's very, very crucial to stick to a PDF format, because in case if you send across your resume with maybe the online downloaded format or a Word document as a whole, the alignment might not be as you desire it to be. So maybe, your system might show a particular alignment, but when you kind of forward the resume to your recruiter, to the company, etc., or else even if you go for a simple printout, there can be a lot of ups and downs, and that can be a major problem for you. So always stick to a PDF format. So wherein the major reason why we call for a PDF format is so that the alignment is in place, like I've already given you like formatting and alignment, tips. So imagine you working for an entire night on your resume and not kind of converting it into PDF and just keeping it in Word document. All right, and forwarding the same to the recruiter. And if the recruiter kind of opens all your mehnat, it goes in waste anyways, because it's all distorted, it's all not in sync. So it's better to kind of use a PDF format. Next is spell check and format. I've already spoken about the grammatical errors. The resume is like your, like I said, it's like your credibility book that you kind of send across. And resume is the first impression that you make. If a recruiter finds a lot of errors in a particular resume, there are chances you're already, you've started to kind of, your chances of getting that particular job are extremely low. So the ideal way, after you kind of complete a particular resume making, etc., it's always wise to go through a spell check. In case if you need any help from, consult your faculty, maybe consult somebody you look up to, your mentor, etc. So ideal way is your spell check and your format, okay, the alignment, etc., should be in place. So that's like the third and the very important golden rule to follow. Next is prioritize your qualification experience for the target job. I'm sure till now there has been a lot of explanation as to why is it important to kind of prioritize your qualification and experience. Now, in the coming slide, I'm going to teach you something very different. That is application. Okay, I'm going to teach you what is an ATS system exactly and how do recruiters actually identify your candidate. So that's going to be an interesting topic. All right. So there I will be focusing on why is it important to prioritize your qualifications, experience, and all of that. Okay. The next is don't include references. I'm so sorry, ma'am. Can you just get back to the slide? Okay. Thank you. Uh, Next is don't include references. It's you might know about a particular, you might, you might get to know about a particular job from a particular human, maybe, so that person can be your uncle, that person can be your aunt, your immediate cousin, etc. But it's not at all formally accepted to, when you're kind of having a resume and at the end you're writing a note that this, this reference is from so and so. It does not give a professional approach or a professional look. So ideally, you should never ever include references. Yes, you can state about the references if you're asked for by the interviewer in the interview. That is again verbally. You're never supposed to, include references because it's not at all professionally appealing to write references in your resume. All right. Next is quantify your accomplishments. Now, again, with the lockdown kind of coming in and with the easily available online platforms where we can have a lot of, we had access to a lot of webinars, workshops, like this is one. Okay. It's important to kind of quantify your accomplishment. Now, what do I mean by the word quantify? The word quantify comes from number, numerical. So whenever you're writing a particular, for example, like Priyanka ma'am already mentioned about the digital marketing workshop. Now, digital marketing workshop went for 200 hours. So 200 hours is like a quantified statement which justifies the fact that digital marketing was again not just any certification, but it was like a rigorous training of 200 hours that an individual or a candidate kind of went through. So that quantifies and adds on to your experience overall. So it's ideally, accepted, and ideally, you should always have that number to your accomplishment, because say your trust level kind of builds up and the person also knows as to how and when you kind of accomplish that particular certification. This also applies to your work experience, your educational qualification, etc. But again, prioritize as to how and when you want. Look at the JD. Is it really required? That call should be taken by you again with a lot of research and external help, etc. Identify what makes you stand out. Now, why do they suggest that it's ideally very important for you to build your career objective on your own? So if you are of this mentality, this copy paste mentality, always reaching out to Google, just kind of copy pasting the same particular career objective, you will never stand an opportunity to, stand out, to look different, to look creative. So if you really want somebody to look up to you, to think of you as a very different candidate. Now remember one thing, if you're always going to do this copy pasting job from the internet maybe, or else simply copying the format of your friend, there's going to be nothing different between you and your friend maybe, or else what others are doing on Google. So if you expect yourself to qualify a particular interview in the line of maybe 100 candidates, begin with, first of all, identifying your own areas of expertise, the areas where you actually stand out. Take a particular time out, like wait and sit, take time out to actually make your resume. So don't kind of have this mentality that I just want to make a resume for the sake of applying for the job. No, resume is actually your personality, it's something you stand for. So if you want to outshine, if you want to look really really different, you need to take time, you need to take efforts towards building it. At times, at the beginning, maybe you might not be able to get the words together, collate your ideas, articulate the facts, etc. But slowly and steadily, the first step is, I think, beginning with the process. Then all of that, of course, you can take inspiration for others, but simply copy pasting will never ever lead you to standing out ahead in life. Then keep the reader in mind. Now, this point is the last point, but also I think a very crucial point to conclude it for the golden rule. Always think from the other person's perspective. Okay, it's ideally said that whenever you accomplish any task, think of you also kind of get into the shoes of the other person. So always imagine, whenever you kind of framing a particular resume, imagine yourself as some bank manager, okay, to which you're maybe applying to. So if you were the bank manager, and if you kind of got access to this resume, would you kind of qualify this particular resume to the next round, or would you select that particular candidate for the next level of interview? So when you have like this two-way approach, when you keep the reader in mind, when you're framing your sentences on resume, things get really, really sorted and easy. So these were like the golden rules. I am sure all of you have maybe documented it and all of that. So it will help you to kind of, fill the overall, make the overall experience much easier. And this can be like a guiding tool, the guiding step towards your idea of framing the resume. Next slide, please. Now, I want to highlight about the most important software here. Now, this slide is again very crucial for us to understand, for us to know as to what ATS is exactly. Now, to begin with what ATS is, I want you to go back to those days when maybe you've completed your graduation, maybe you've completed your B school, like your post graduation, and you're desperately wanting to get a job. You have opened your accounts on all the job portals. Okay, you've gone to, so whenever you reach out to anybody and you say that I want to get a job, so everybody is going to suggest you one thing: open an account on LinkedIn, open an account, register yourself on Naukri, on monster.com and all of that, right? So that's like a very quick go to tip. But ये सब कुछ करने के बाद, the next question most of us, most of them come to me and they're like, maybe ma'am, I've applied everywhere, but I am not really getting any response. The recruiters are not really calling me, or if they are calling me, they're all from the irrelevant profiles. How do I deal with this? Now it's majorly because of this system that corporate world has nowadays. I think most of the recruiting agencies, etc., the recruitment the outsourcing agencies, etc., have begun with this software, that is ATS. Now you must be thinking why they have inculcated this software. So the only reason why, for example, whenever they post a particular advertisement on any job portal, at one go they have like 100 candidates applying. I think 100 is a very understatement again. At times even there are 500 applications for one particular job role. All right, so in case if they want to really filter out candidates, they do not actually go to each resume individually, and they start looking at each resume and then shortlist. So we need to understand that there is like a robotic machine behind us which is filtering the information there. So you can see a very beautiful quote that is with a very nice comic there, which says that 70% of job applications get disqualified by the applicant tracking system without being read. This statistic emphasize on how important it is to tailor your resume as per the ATS. Now, the only reason why I am emphasizing so much on the slide is we need to know that. It's sad that, just after our college, etc., we make a resume and then we're waiting for a job call desperately and we're not able to make one. Most of the times we're not aware why our resumes are not getting shortlisted. So, my dear friends, it's because of this app ATS. So let's understand, in order to qualify this test of ATS, why wait for like a good opportunity, right? So let's quickly understand the tips of how you're supposed to create an ATS friendly resumes. Okay. So the first tip goes like, pick the right resume format. Now, when I'm saying the right resume format, aim for simplicity always. Now, when I'm saying simplicity, it does not mean go for really plain resumes, but do not also download the ready-made templates which are available. Okay, you might download some for maybe editing purpose, etc. But always a resume which is created on Word document is a good resume to go through. So nowadays, if you kind of just Google online resume templates, you'll get a lot of fancy, jazzy, loud resumes. But trust me, friends, that resumes look really appealing to us, but not all of us pass, not all of the resumes really pass through the ATS friendly, they're not ATS friendly. So if you're really having a resume with a lot of fancy designs, etc., I would suggest it's always, good to stick to a simplistic format. All right. Next is choose the appropriate file type. A PDF file type is usually the best file to follow. So when you have your document saved with .pdf and you convert any document into PDF and kind of send across, that's the best tip to follow. But if you kind of get a chance to read out this job descriptions, at time recruiters also mention factors like send your resume across in Word document only. Okay, send across a Word document copy only. Send across a PDF copy only. The only reason why they're requesting you to send across copies in that particular format is ideally because their ATS follows. So ATS is again, like an automated system, and every ATS follows different commands. So every company has different command of ATS. So they might have an ATS which supports different features, right? So as per the need and the requirement, if there are certain ATS which demand for a particular file type, they will usually mention, but PDF file type is a good file type to send across. Next is use an ATS resume template. So ATS resume template is nothing but aim for a simpler template, aim for something which is okay, it can be fancy again, but plain white backgrounds with least amount of color. Again, you can use a particular one particular color for maybe a different color maybe, sorry, for maybe the headers, and a single color again for the entire resume. So like Priyanka ma'am already demonstrated, like she had this maroon color in the demonstration for the headers, and an entire black resume with for the rest of the font. So that's an excellent way to kind of frame your resume. Do not have too many colors. We do not no recruiter wants to see like a rainbow displayed in the resume, right? So it can be again very disappointing for our eyes also. So that's the ATS resume template. Next is use simple layout. I've already emphasized a lot on why is it crucial to use simple layout, is because majorly the not all ATS machines pass out to this formal, this fancy formats. Your resume, forget about you entering the corporate and giving, you might never land up a chance to, give a particular interview because your resume only can keep on going rejected. So it's better to stick to a simple layout, but again, simple yet elegant. Do not use acronyms. Now, when I'm saying acronyms, there's a shared language which is important for us to understand. Okay, for me, maybe I am a management student. Okay, I am a BMS graduate, so I know BMS for me is management studies. Now again, BMS is a degree in the medical field also. Okay, so again, they also have this acronym with them. So when you're using a lot of acronyms again, then again technical field, etc. So they have their own wordings, etc. So when you use a lot of acronyms, the machine, it's again a machine, guys. We need to understand it's not human who is introspecting. So what might mean to you, not necessary the ATS there also understands that particular language, that particular code. Now we'll see an example also in the coming slide as to how what the machine exactly reads. So if you are to kind of build like an excellent go to resume, you should definitely stick around with us. All right, label your sections right. Now this goes without saying, but at times we can be in really hurry to make on point resumes, where I have also seen resumes where under the education, like you write education on the header, but you have work experience written under that. So it's merely because of negligence towards reading out the resume. That can be one case. Second is because you have maybe not worked on your resume, you are not the person making it. Or third is maybe you have just simply downloaded anything from the internet. So like I said, spend maximum amount of time on actually sitting down and preparing your resume, because it's your personality, it's something you stand for. If you cheat there, if you do not give your maximum attention there, you might lose out on major opportunities. So why take this document for granted, right? So work on your resume with a lot of passion, with a lot of excitement. Tailor your resumes with resume keywords. Now, how to tailor them, I'll definitely show you in the next slide. All right, next slide, please. Okay, now this is a very important slide to kind of understand if you aspire to create like a resume which is very much ATS friendly. So you see the statement which says highly driven tax manager with 5+ years of financial experience in managing tax returns and affairs, proven experience of success, employer satisfaction, strong communication skills. So if your resume summary, that is, if you must have noticed, I'm not very sure. If not, you should definitely go whenever you create your account on Naukri and you upload your particular CV there, your Naukri CV, immediately by default, your Naukri gives you a resume summary, which is not created by you. It's the machine work again. So hence it's important to kind of frame a resume that has appropriate keywords. So if you want to pass that ATS test, if you want to pass that portals filters that they follow, have appropriate keywords. Now, with this summary, you will see immediately the ATS machine has identified these particular keywords. That is the tax manager, 5+ years of experience, tax returns and affairs, employer satisfaction, and strong communication skills. So to make sure that you understand a little better, whenever you have appropriate keywords in your particular resume, in your summary, etc., what happens is you immediately get shortlisted by the ATS. So might be you are eligible for this particular job, but out of the 5 keywords that they have identified, you might not logically qualify this test because you have not included appropriate keywords in your particular framing of resume, etc. Hence, using appropriate keywords are very important. So always have your job description in front of you and look at the terms that they are expecting. For a sales manager job, they're expecting terms like communication, negotiation, digital marketing. So try and make sure that if you can alter your CV, if you can have a particular keywords that they can be altered. If not, try redesigning that particular sentence and all of that. Okay, so ideally, to pass the ATS stage, I think keywords play a major role. Next slide, please. So with a lot of resume writing information, etc., I came across this very beautiful quote when I was going through one of the TEDx talk, which said, whoever you are in the resume is who you have to be in the interview. Whoever you are in the interview is who you have to be at your job. Now I'll tell you something why this quote that we've included, the placement cell has included in the conclusion. Just to look good in front of the recruiter, maybe You might dress up really well. You might have the best fancy jargons in your resume with a lot of exaggeration of your qualification, with a lot of exaggeration of your skills. You will of course try to look the best. You will be the best always, aiming to look good there. But remember one thing, the journey does not end of your entire job process of, like I began with the fact that helping you to to make sure that you land into a particular dream job. But let me tell you something, if you kind of bluff, if you kind of try to trick the person sitting next to you, you might maybe land up in the job. They might select you at that particular moment, but not necessary that you will be retained in the company for really long. Okay, not necessary at all. Because I know of people who have been like excellent in their B schools and cracked like really the big placement interviews, majorly because maybe they were eloquent speakers, etc., etc., and they tried to portray something else and they were something else. Okay, they landed up into the job also, but in 1 month or so they were laid off from the company. The only reason why, the journey does not end at just the interview. The journey actually begins after the interview. Okay, so aim for 100% genuine information. I will not even say 99, because even for filling up that 1%, you have to kind of go through a rigorous process, because that makeup that we put is possible for just the limited period of time, right? So after a period of time it goes away. So aim for genuine information. It's always good if you're honest. If in an interview you feel you do not know a particular answer, you don't have to cover up, you don't have to go round the bush giving a lot of inputs, etc. Always understand, it's always safe to just say sorry and move on, because again the person sitting there is an expertise. When you beat around the bush, they know that where you're coming from. All right, and maybe you might get away with it, you might get the job, but again retaining there is a big time task. So yeah, that's about it with our resume writing workshop. I would love, me and Priyanka ma'am, of course, we would love to answer a lot of queries that you all must be having, any inputs, etc. And I request all of you to also fill the feedback form for the participation certificate, which is already shared in the chat box by the committee. So it would be great. And whatever queries that you've been holding to, etc., we can have them in the chat box. Okay.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Students, if any questions are there, please write in your chat box. And feedback form, please all of you fill it. Any questions is there? Student, please write questions in your chat box. Okay, Sonia, thank you very much. Very informative session. I like one slogan. You have said marketing tool that highlights your personality. Really, I like that sentence. And Priyanka madam also, you have mentioned that how to write your personal details. Miss, it focus on your biodata also. On behalf of placement cell committee members, I thanks for today's both speaker. Thanks to our principal and vice principal giving us the opportunity. Surely आजचा जो प्रोग्राम झालेला आहे त्याचा 100% मुलांना बेनिफिट होईल. I will thank to our technical staff, Minal Ambawne madam, Minal Mapuskar madam, and Prabha Kadam madam. I will also thanks to Ankita madam for preparing our two brochures, and to my all colleagues and dear students for participating today's program. Thank you very much. Any still questions are there in the chat box? Sonia, can you see any questions?
Yes, ma'am. I think there is one question.
Okay. Ma'am, do
Priyanka,
we
ma'am.
need?
Yes.
Yeah, read it. Read it. Ma'am,
Yes.
read.
Divya is asking, do we need to edit our resume for each job applications? Priyanka, ma'am, would you like to take this up?
Sure, Sonia. Thank you. So, Divya, that's a very valid question. I wouldn't recommend you having to edit your resume for every job interview, right? If you're keen on a particular job profile, so if you're from, let's say, marketing background and you're very keen on digital marketing, make sure you include certain keywords which align with digital marketing profile in your career objective and include similar skill sets. You have to be very certain that because this is what you look forward to, this is the role in digital marketing that you look forward to, you would not want to apply for other roles. If that is the case, you may not have to edit the resume. Yes, but if you're open to various profiles in marketing, it could be business development, it could be digital marketing, etc., you might want to change certain aspects based on the job description that you can go through, right? It's not a compulsion, right? But it's better if you ensure you have those keywords in your resume for the description. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. One more question is there in the chat box.
Sonia ma'am, can you please read it out because I have my screen being shared here.
I will read it, Priyanka. If we have done diploma, we should include it in certificate or education.
Diploma is definitely a qualification, your diploma, your degree. So you should include it under the qualification. If it's a diploma after your 10th or if it's a postgraduate diploma, etc. But if it's a short-term certification, then they are also tagged as a diploma program, such as we discussed about foreign languages and certifications. So foreign languages also have a diploma program, right? But if it's of a short duration, you should list it down under certification.
Thank you very much, Priyanka. One more question is there. Are bullet points better than explanation for a particular point?
Absolutely, because if you've written down everything on your resume, the interviewer may not want to hear much from you. So keep that as some kind of a mystery. Let your resume highlight certain points and create some kind of inquisitiveness for the interviewer to ask you.
One more question, Priyanka. I am from finance department, but I don't have any experience in that department. But I have other like in hotel management and etc. So should I write it resume or avoid writing experience?
Well, if you can justify the reason why you've chosen to shift to a new line of career, you should include because these days it's quite common for people to switch their line of career, or maybe the graduation and post graduations also sometimes don't do much justice. So it's okay to mention that is something that you've pursued. And let me tell you, every learning and every experience will come to your help and rescue anytime and during your career.
Thank you very much, Priyanka.
Thank you.
Any still questions are there? Sonia, any questions are there still?
I don't see any after that.
Yeah, one more is there. I'm applying for some research job or PhD. One question is there, like I am applying for some research job or PhD. Question from Divya.
Okay, so I'm assuming the student wants to know if that should be included. So if you've been selected, you can always write it as pursuing. But if you're still, if you're yet to be selected, you shouldn't mention that because that could take a few weeks, a month. So only something that you're currently pursuing or have completed should fall into your resume. That can be included in your career objective or your career profile, right? That this is another objective that you wish to achieve.
Thank you, Priyanka. One more question is there.
Yeah, so it says that I am already done. So the person has worked for 1 month. So in the resume, is it compulsory to write about the duration and the job responsibilities?
Yes, it is important because unless you mention the duration, the interviewer or even the ATS software wouldn't know what your duration was. So there are a lot of selection criteria where the duration is the most crucial for work experience.
Any relevant questions are there, Sonia, with resume writing?
Yes, ma'am. I am just going through it.
Yeah.
So there is one more which says that I'm a student of TY Economics, even though I had completed graduation in glamour industry as I'm a celebrity makeup artist. So how I would include this in the section of my resume?
Okay, so this will definitely add up to the experience. Now, these are two entirely unrelated fields of career. Do you wish to pursue your career further in the glamour industry, or like you mentioned, currently you're pursuing your graduation in economics? So, if that is the line of career, that is a trajectory you have chosen, you should only mention credentials related to that stream. But of course, if there is a bit of void on the resume, you do not have much content to add in, it's okay to include this experience or any qualification related to this industry as well, so that you have some content and so that there is a content to be discussed during the interview. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. No question is there. Ma'am, there is any method where we can test our resume for ATS approval?
Sonia ma'am, would you like to take it?
Yes, sure. So to kind of pass the ATS, test overall, I've already mentioned it's always safe to use simple formats. So by simple formats, I mean it's always advisable to kind of have, yes. So this is exactly the slide that you should look for. That is, you should always have, simple resume format. So you get a lot of downloaded patterns, etc., with a lot of fancy colors and all of that. So usually ATS does not accept those formats which are downloaded, ready-made again. And if there are a lot of acronyms again that you're using, like I said, keep it as short again, but it should be justifiable, whatever you're writing in the resume. And your label and your sections of the overall resume writing should also be in place. So I think that should be enough. And most important is you should tailor your resume with the job description. So to pass the ATS test, it's always good to have keywords which are in line with the job description or the job that you're applying to. So that should be like a go-to for you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. On behalf of Placement Cell Committee, I wish again to all today's two speaker, Priyanka Madam and Sonia Madam, and all my colleagues and dear students for participating today's program. Thank you very much. Over to Sontake sir. Hello, Sontake sir, any question? Shall I declare the session is?
Yeah. Those who want to ask any question, they can ask our
it is open,
speaker.
sir. Chat box is still open.
No. Afterwards, they have any problem.
Yeah.
Our college students, they can ask on the mail of our college mail, principal@gmail. Principal.
Once again,
that common email ID should be given, or if you want to give Sonia or Priyanka your email ID, then it will be so that they can ask you any query. Is it okay?
Yeah. Okay, sir. Once again, thank you very much, our technical staff, Minal Ambavne Madam, Minal Mapuskar Madam, and Prabha Madam. And once again, thank you very much, sir Sontake sir, giving us the opportunity. Now, I will declare here today's session is concluded. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, speakers. Very informative and excellent session. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka and Sonia. Very nice session, very informative. Really thorough professional session was there.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.